Thank you all for coming. We have, next up will be a panel discussion on the future of education. I should say the present day and also the future of education within Urantia community. To moderate this discussion, we've invited Andre to act as moderator. And Andre, are you on the screen? And I hope you're a host. Andre, would you like to introduce the panel or should I?
I'll be glad to introduce the panel.
Excellent. I'm turning everything over to you then.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Welcome everybody to this panel discussion on present day and future of education for the Urantia community. We have 5 panelists today representing 5 Urantian organizations. Gard Jameson is Urantia Foundation Education Chair. What I will do is I'll ask you to quickly speak up so that your picture floats onto the first screen, if you would do that.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Gard.
Have I floated?
I hope so. And following Gard, we have Jeannie Vasquez, who is Urantia Association International Education Chair. Hello, Jeannie.
Hello, Andre.
Hello. David Kulicki is the Urantia Book Fellowship Education Committee Chair. Hello, David.
Hello, Andre.
Marta Elders is the Urantia Book Internet School Chair. Hello, Marta.
I'm not chair.
What are you?
What?
What is your title there?
I'm just on the board, and I'm a TF.
Okay, so you're a trustee for Urantia Book Internet School. And Elizabeth Callahan, she is Executive Director for Urantia University Institute. Hello, Elizabeth.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello, everyone.
Hello. All right, very good. So I'm conceiving of what we'll do to start out this discussion is just for every institution to briefly talk, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, on your program and what you see there, and maybe the questions you might answer in just describing your program is, how would you describe your group's program of education and its objectives? What are you up to now? And can you outline a vision for the future? And rather than put anybody on the spot, I'll put you all on the spot and ask who might like to lead off that discussion. Sorry, Mark.
Oh, no problem. So first of all, I'd just like to compliment all the team that put this together about what a wonderful celebration of Jesus and his life this has been. I haven't had the experience of watching all of it, but the ones that I've seen have been very meaningful and inspirational. So I think it's really, it's exciting to see. And what I was thinking about in listening to this and being taught by several of the people was that except for the 5th epical revelation, there's so little of what has been discussed that we would even be aware of. And we were talking today about the untold story. Most book captures it beautifully. But without the 5th revelation, we would not know that the same Jesus is Michael of Nebadam, that he's one of 700,000 creator sons, that we wouldn't even know that his birthday was yesterday. There is so much information that we have integrated thanks to the 5th epical revelation. And that was also one of Jesus's promises, that there would be a new revelation following his. And the reason I put that context there is because UBIS, well, I should say the foundation, has really been heir to the 5th epical revelation. The revelators brought it to the foundation. It has been stewarded and supported and maintained by the foundation and will be for 1,000 years. It's not a sexy job, but it's a critical job. And one of the tasks is to maintain the non-interpretive aspect of the revelation. And you know, that out of that commitment to maintain the non-interpretive aspect and to study the book in a non-interpretive way, to study the living truth of it, UBIS emerged, and it emerged a little over 20 years ago. I've been involved probably for about 10 years. But UBIS's pedagogy is committed to that process. The teacher facilitators at UBIS create questions and facilitate dialogue, but the teachers are the revelators in the book. And it is designed to bring our students back to the revelation over and over and over again. It's like when Bard mentioned before, he read the ordination sermon over 100 times or whatever. There's not a time, I don't think any of us experience when we go back to the book in an open, committed, curious way that we don't learn. It's a living revelation. And it's almost like, because we have the book, it's like sitting around a campfire with Jesus. And that is, the book is the curriculum of UBIS. And that's pretty much it. That we have 10-week courses, we have 6-week courses, we have theme-related courses, we have paper-related courses, we have team teaching. In terms of the future, UBIS is moving towards different language branches. We have a Spanish branch, we have a French branch, we have a Portuguese branch opening up now. And we're looking to become a global learning environment, always studying the book, always going back to the revelation and living out those truths. I don't know what I would really add to that. You know, there were so many, you know, wonderful things said at the time that I had planned on incorporating into it. I love what Anya said about teachable. UBIS is about teachable, and it's about the realization of always being teachable, that when truth is bottomless, for lack of a better word, and that's what we're studying. We're studying the living truth, and essentially it's a non-interpretive but self-discovery of those truths. We do not tell our students, yes, that's right, no, that's wrong. Of course, facts may get amended or corrected in a course, and the students definitely dialogue with one another. But it's about their self-revealed truths that they actually experience in the classroom. It's online. It's open 24/7, and that is, I think that kind of captures it. I invite you all to come.
Thank you very much, Marta. Who would like to go next? Or shall I just call on people? Garth?
I invite Elizabeth.
Oh, you invite Elizabeth. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I was going to invite David Kulick, but you know what? We really are all a team, and like Marta, I really appreciate what we've been experiencing in this Urantiathon and the individual presentations by so many people from around the world. I love being part of this international community and watching it grow. And I want to really appreciate the enormous creative work that's being done by so many individuals and by organizations. And Kurt, I saw your comment about the Christ experiment. Yes, I wish they were here too, and we want to ring out their name for the work that Jeanette and her crew are doing to develop ambassadors for the kingdom. And I understand that Kurt is a recent graduate, so congratulations. At Urantia University, we're not just about educating the intellect. We're also looking to foster the development of the religion of the Spirit taught by Jesus, and fostering the development of this living organism of the brotherhood of Jesus. So this means a real transformation and a rebirth of the whole person in the spirit. So we're really looking at a process of what some call metanoia, a transformation and growth in the soul. And we're living, of course, in a very critical time in history, which has precipitated a crisis in every sector of society. So we have a real unprecedented challenge and opportunity here to innovate and transform the way that we are living and relating to one another. So I see that this surge, or that there is a surge in response to the crises of our time on the part of so many Urantia organizations in terms of the online schools and the marathon events that we've been having, the recent Urantia Hackathon, for example, and all the UAI Urantiathons we've been doing, and the recent online retreat. And even our little UUI cafe, which has been in operation since late March in response to the coronavirus and the fact that so many people were sheltering at home. And so that's just a wonderful creative response, you know, to the changing social situation, and giving people a community place that they can gather online and just share their love of God, their own spiritual practices, their insights, and really support one another. So that's been a very successful hybrid development as a result of the coronavirus. You know, one of my
El coronavirus. Bueno, una tarea como directora de UAI es mantenernos atentos a tendencias y a la educación en línea. Ha sido emocionante, lo hemos estado rastreando desde el 2012.
Rapidly than ever now, K through 12 and online colleges and universities. Everybody's moved their courses. Every educational group has been moving their courses online. So this is prompting even more innovation, and we're tracking what is effective and what is less effective. What are the breakthroughs? One of the big things, of course, is self-directed learning. And this means that students now have more access to their the content of their courses online than ever before. And they can also pace their learning according to their individual circumstances. And this self-directed learning is also being supported more and more by online tutoring in the form of, say, consultations, office hours, mentoring, that sort of thing. There's also a growing trend in micro-learning, which is really a mode of studying in bite-sized lessons. It might be from 3 minutes to a 15-minute lesson. There are also different modes of instruction to give students the right content in the right form. For example, some lessons are better imparted as text. They can be read and there can be written responses. But also video lessons are used to teach big concepts and things like VideoScribe, using a whiteboard online. This is a good way to teach, as I said, concepts that are difficult to get just by reading the text. And third, there's also the most important form of all, of course, is live instruction. That's provided through mentorship sessions and small group meetings and, say, virtual office hours. And this allows us to customize learning for individual students. And then I think finally there's, what I'm reading is that there's a growing importance on deeper level learning. And this would be along the lines of what Marta was talking about. And that is, you don't give students the answer. You don't ask them to memorize facts. You present them with questions, which they have to probe and solve on their own and think about on their own. And of course, they can also do this collaboratively in small group sessions. But the fact is that when they work more on their own to develop, to think about things, they are absorbing and understanding that at much deeper levels, solving problems for themselves. So I don't want to take too long here, but I will say that in line with all of these trends and innovations in online learning, we're responding at Urantia University by developing more self-directed courses, and we will be introducing our first group of self-directed learning of the Urantia book paper by paper in October. So look for that. We're gearing it so that it can be accessible to newer readers of the Urantia book. Nothing will be told them. They will be reading the text. They'll be responding to questions. There'll be a lot of supplemental learning material. For example, charts and little insets to describe, related information like a person in history or a breakthrough in science, something like that. And we will also be adding another dimension to it that makes it deeper learning for advanced students and seasoned students of the Urantia book to make it challenging for them as well. So it's going to take a while to roll all this out, probably a couple of years, but we have a team of people working on that now. We also continue to develop courses in spiritual living. Because again, I want to go back to say that we are so concerned not only with the discovering and interpreting the text of the Urantia book for oneself, but encouraging and supporting a deepening awareness of one's personal relationship with God. And we know that this is done through worship, really developing profound and steady, regular worship practice, communing with God, and extending this, then letting it overflow into loving service. So study and service and worship, that triangle is the basis of our curriculum. So we continue to offer courses like A Way of Life in the Family of God. Marvin Gowan, Are You Here? This is a superb course of instruction that we've offered now multiple times, and we're also extending it to other countries and other languages. We'll be offering it, for example, to students in the Netherlands coming in September. Let's see what else I want to mention. We're also taking all of our traditional courses, which introduce the Urantia book to newer readers and putting them into a self-directed format, as well as offering them real lifetime. Look for another exciting course. I'm really, really jazzed about this. It's called the Progress Project. It's been developed by Angie Thurston and April Helen. So we're looking to the next generation of younger spiritual transformers, leaders, and teachers. And they'll be coming out with this new course called the Progress Project. It's a course in experiential, spiritual living, and developing worship pods for deepening each person who's involved in the project, their personal relationship with the indwelling spirit. And then I want to mention just briefly too, I think the wonderful success that we've had with a new course called the Urantia Book New Reader Course. We've offered it twice now to smaller groups that meet weekly, 3 hours a week for 10 weeks, led by Marvin Gowan, and I support him in that class as well. And we take a very guided journey through the Urantia book. The text is the teacher. The students read it. It's more like maybe a 200-page Reader's Digest version of the Urantia book, but it manages to impart the really important themes of the book, the vocabulary of the book, and really by the end of the 10 weeks, Marvin can testify, we have found that students are, well, they're in tears. They're so grateful for having been able to actually travel through the book, which has often sat on their bookshelf for years. But they've been defeated by the sheer size of the book and the complexity of the language. But by being guided through the landscape of the book, understanding the structure of the book and the themes of the book, and they come out the other end as real solid members of the Urantia community. They join study groups. They're in our UUI cafe. They have all enrolled in the next course, A Way of Life in the Spiritual and the Family of God. So they adopt,
Very
worship practices. Oh, I'll stop there.
Yes, very
I'm
good.
going
Elizabeth.
overtime. Sorry.
Thank you very much for that, and I'll pull it back. And Jeannie or David, are you, either one of you, ready?
I'm all ready.
Go ahead, David.
Well, I want to start by quoting someone that I did in a little biography for an electronic newsletter that has been restarted by Chris Wood's wife, Alice. We did a Midwest newsletter, pervaded space. It was crude and it was blue, but we got it out for about 20 years. And we've started again. Alice is managing editor, and I get to help. So I interviewed my cousin, Lynn Kulicki. I think a lot of you know her very well. She's not doing that well these days, but I asked her about what would you say is the relationship between the Urantia book and education? And she said, well, they're one and the same. And it's not hard to believe that if you start with the second paragraph of the foreword, where we see that the divine counselor who is speaking to us says, our endeavor, the revelators, is to expand cosmic consciousness and enhance spiritual perception. I thought for sure, Marta, you'd say that before I did. But at any rate, it takes all of one paragraph to get to one of the rock solid purposes in the Urantia book is education. Our committee has put together a 130-page compilation of quotes about education and teaching and learning from the Urantia book, which is then winnowed down to about 25 pages, which is on our web page. And there's just no question that that is an important aspect and objective of the Urantia book. And this has been something that has spurred me on. I'm a professional teacher, but even more so because of the camaraderie that we have experienced among, well, all the people who are speaking today and have worked together. I keep on pointing this out, and Jeff is always looking for places that people work together. And in the last 10 years, we have worked together and led together, and well, it's in committee meetings, bled together. And I only said that because it rhymed, but done all sorts of things. And there's nothing like a spiritual brotherhood that is fomented by the idea that you're working on common objectives. And there are people, because of Urantia endeavors, Urantia education endeavors, that I've been part of, and I'm going to miss people, but Gard and Elizabeth and Bobby and Marta, and who am I thinking about? I sat next to Andre for an entire week at one workshop, and I still liked it. And let me think, the other one is Marilyn, Kulicki, who I'm sure are going to be cosmic buddies of mine all the way up, or at least until Mansonia 1 when I get stuck there and they go on. But for a while, we will work together, and it's been a very good thing, and we will continue to work together. Part of it is education, part of it is working together that makes people so close. I get to be on the chair of the longest running educational entity. It's been going since 1955. My earliest predecessor was a guy named Sadler, and it's been very interesting for me to go back and look at committee reports. Lynn was another one, and actually there's a second cousin of mine, three of us who have been education chair, Ken Stevens. But at any rate, we know the value of looking at history, and it's amazing how many principles we're talking about today that have been mentioned throughout those 65 years, over and over again. Some of them, not so much. One of the things that's really interesting is after the Urantia Brotherhood School started in Chicago and kept on going for nearly 20 years, the chairs would wring their hands over, how do we get this out to a larger group? Oh, I know, it'll be a correspondence school, which is why it's so wonderful we have these new tools and that we are using them. But there have been other things that have been important that are common principles, and I'll mention them in a minute, that I still think are really important. And a couple of them are a little different from what you've heard. We do, in our committee, stress in-depth study. It's always been something, I'd like to expand that to excellence in study. And we think it's important to look to see what those 120 or 130 or 140 pages of education quotes in the Urantia book tell us. And anybody can look up the 25 I winnowed down. But they have to do with excellence in education. You don't just throw the ball out there and let it roll. You've got to do some work and some planning and make it good. And professional teachers will tell you that how much is in the preparation. So that's an important thing to do. And it's true no matter the venue that you are using. So excellence is important, but it's not just from the Urantia book, it's from secular sources too. Whatever we do, we're supposed to be looking for the best things we can, both evolutionarily and revelationally. And that's another cornerstone of what our committee tries to do. More concretely, we have a lot of resources that are on our webpage, which you can find if you go to the fellowship website and just look up Education Committee resources. And I think they're useful. We've developed a lot of workshops that people can download and use however they want. And a number of other things, but you'd have to go through and look there. It's about 80% back to what it was before the new platform was started recently. But again, when we develop these workshops and resources, we pore over them and try to make them as highly reflective of strong educational principles and approaches that we can. And I have some really good people, Bobby, to lead us and to kick me in the behind whenever she wants, which is often. And we've been working together well for several years. We kind of put off doing the online thing because other groups were doing it, but we're in the business of doing it now. Our first one was an in-depth workshop on the 12 apostles a couple months ago, and we'll be doing them regularly now. And it'll reflect what I just said. We are going to try to do them in depth, a strong, deep study of the Urantia book in keeping with what Marta suggested, and with as high a quality as we possibly can. And we feel that part of our mission is to help groups, help workshops, help study groups, help conferences. And that brings me to something that I think is really important. Thank God we have had this electronic resource during our quarantining from each other. But that's not to say that it's the best way to work together. The best way is still in person. Electronically is a really good supplement and backup, especially when you can't do it any other way. Right now, that's how we have to do it. And it's wonderful. People have done excellent things, and I'm in awe with some of the things they've done. And I'm very appreciative of the work that Chris and his whole group has done for events like this. But I also know that right now, I would say over the last month, I had several classes. Every summer I do several classes online. I teach literature and writing and other aspects of English. And whether the people I'm talking to live here or in China, where I teach a lot of people, whether they're middle school or high school or occasionally college, every single one, every 100% are dying to get back in person with each other because they know A, they'll learn better, B, they'll enjoy it better, C, it'll be more meaningful. And D, like me, they're sick of sitting in this chair. I mean, my God, it's shaped like, well, you know.
Thank you, David. I'm going to pull it back from you.
One more thing, please, if you would please allow me.
I will allow, please.
It'll be less than 1 minute. We do summer study sessions, again, in-depth study, 2 out of every 3 years. And the virus permitting, we will be doing one at the end of July next year, our next one. And I just want to tell people it'll be about Machiaven and Melchizedek as a broad-reaching theme, because next year is the 4,000th anniversary of Melchizedek's arriving on this planet. So you want to be there for that. We don't know yet whether he'll arrive at Techni, though.
Thank you very much, David. Well, let's go to Jeannie Vasquez for UAI, Urantia Association International, who is sponsoring this wonderful Urantiathon. We know one of the things you're doing. Tell us the rest.
Thank you very much. Well, I will speak a little about what we are doing in our service to our community. We are, as you know, organizing webinars, and but basically our webinars offer opportunity to know each other from every corner of the world, to develop real friendship. I have made wonderful friends, and I am so happy. It is so satisfying to share these opportunities, because we started the revelation. Also, thank you for the wonderful presenters and the wonderful facilitators that offer really wonderful service. Sorry for my repetition. And I agree with you, Elizabeth, in what to say. This situation, this pandemic, is offering a great opportunity. You know, our world is developing through difficulties and the hammer of necessity, as the Revelation says, right? I think that's the word in the Revelation. And this Urantiathon today is an amazing opportunity to work together in spiritual unity, in union of purpose. And this parenthesis. In our webinars, we have interaction, we have participation of everyone that comes, that honors us with their presence, and we share our understanding. And it is amazing the wisdom of the revelators when they recommended to create study groups. In study groups, I have discovered meanings that even I read a section or a chapter of the many times, I try to understand. My mind couldn't discover the meaning, but someone else could. And this sharing our understandings, this sharing our experiences is constructive, is satisfying. It is instructive also. So I am so grateful for my opportunity to serve, for the privilege to serve our community. We are organizing webinars and workshops in English, in Spanish, Portuguese, and French, thanks to our wonderful friends Guy Perron and Agnès. They are basically those who organize the French, offer the French presentations. And just want to say thank you, because it is a privilege to me to be part of this group of servers, and to be able to know each one of you, and to grow mutually, to contribute to our inner growth. And I think, aside of the work that everyone is done in its own area, this opportunity to work together is something that we needed. I think this is the way to have a greater union, a greater fraternity, a greater even spiritual union, right? We know spiritual union is a fruit of the Spirit, as Jesus said, and you said, Gard, in your presentation. But how could we know each other if we do not have these opportunities? We are in a, for us, enormous world. And I agree with David that personal contact is the idea. But how could we have personal contact if I live in Uruguay, Gar lives in Los Angeles, more or less?
Las Vegas.
Sorry? Las Vegas. And Guy lives in Belgium. Well, Zoom, internet, I think is a very wonderful tool. And I think after this pandemic and these difficulties are overcome, we should continue doing this kind of meetings and working together in union of purpose, because that is fraternity, and I think we are doing the will of the Father. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Jeannie. Thank you. And in the anchor spot, Gard Jameson, Education Chair for Urantia Foundation.
Andre,
we will take, just after Gard is finished, we will take a few questions from the audience and perhaps pose some other questions there. So please private chat me with a question if you have one. Go ahead, Gard.
thanks, Andre. And with brevity and vigor, so we can get to the questions, I will even go a paragraph before David Kulicki, which is the first paragraph, which is the first line. In the minds of mortals, there is great confusion. If that's not an educational mandate, I don't know what is. But we observe and we witness that. So again, at Urantia Foundation, as we all have the fellowship, the UAI, our principal object is to foster education. How do we do that? Well, our crown jewel is UBIS, and what Marta and George and the team, Guy, are doing there is nothing less than extraordinary. And we shoulder to shoulder with UUI and with the fellowship on a variety of different projects. Ourselves, we have been doing symposiums. We did a scientific symposium last November where we really drilled down. We figured out the connection of the ultimatum to paradise. If you weren't there, you should have been there. Nigel from Australia gave us that connection. It was extraordinary. And Marjorie Ray, a wonderful presentation on biology, and so many wonderful presentations, allowing us to see the connection between evolutionary thought and revelatory thought. So my big picture, and I've shared this before, is a three-layered cake. The first layer is personal transformation. Without that, the revelation doesn't go far. So each of us needs to commit to that. And then the second layer is really understanding the revelation. And again, all of these institutions are doing an extraordinary job. And the third layer, and Kurt pointed it out, the Christ experiment. Jeanette is now part of our education committee at Urantia Foundation. She's extraordinary. And more, the Christ experiment is going to be part of our vision, because that's the third layer, which is how do we move this revelation out into the world? And every epical revelation had a school which trained people and allowed people to be inspired and informed in such a way that they would go back to their cultures and bring the revelation. So there are a group of us, and we are, may I say, Elizabeth, formally, informally related to UUI now in a wonderful way. And our objective, David Kulicki's part of that, Marilyn's part of that, Chris is part of that, I'm part of that. Our objective is really to put a laser focus on that last piece of how we get the revelation into the world. And so you'll be seeing information about this coming forward shortly, but we are all thrilled. And the last piece I would say is, in 100 years, wouldn't it be lovely, like the Brigham Young University in Utah, or like the universities associated with various traditions, the Catholic tradition, the Methodist tradition, to have a university where the revelation is the core of the culture, and there are departments, there is study in all of these various areas, and it's grounded in revelatory insight. So that at 80,000 feet is where Urantia Foundation is going, and thank you all for being part of this extraordinary experience. Questions, Andre?
Thank you, Gard. Yes, we will have some questions. Rick Warren has his hand up. I'm going to call on him. He's got another take on education. Quickly, go ahead, Rick, from Texas.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, everybody. Good to be with you. This is about the closest thing we have to a global conference nowadays. I hope you don't mind that I'm going to read this. It's under 2 minutes. It's about a personal math education project. It's a teamwork between James Woodward and Rick and Sue Lyon, Olga Lopez, Alan Sear, and the other translator, Alex Haber. I need help getting UB's greatest stories out. I think telling about Adam and Eve in a 200-page book is a good way to entice people to look at our 2,100-page revelation. Everyone would like to know Eve's true story, but they don't have access to it because of the size of the UB. Urantia Foundation has done a great service breaking out Jesus' teachings with its new book, The Untold Story. But people will also want to hear about Melchizedek's mission, to know Andon and Fanta's amazing tale. Humans fear dying because they don't know they will resurrect on the mansion worlds. And what about the astonishing tale of Dalmatia and the rebellion? Traditional Christianity is losing steam because fewer and fewer can believe the world's troubles are Eve's fault. How much longer can we make seekers believe that God won't forgive humans for Eve's sin unless his only begotten son is tortured to death on the cruelest device ever invented? The Adam and Eve novel is in print, ebook, and audio. It's in English, Spanish, French, and German. The Resurrection Hall book is about waking up on Mansion 1. It's also in 4 languages.
Great.
At the end of each novel, I'm almost through, Abby. At the end of each novel is a Urantia.org link for UB downloads in the major languages. And all my novels are low priced. And if you think that's too much, ask for a PDF copy by email. My email is in the chat room and the link to all my books.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Thanks to the presenters and producers. Love you guys.
We love your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so starting with the first question in the chat, how do we get the next generation excited about the revelation? What about children and families? What is going on to develop materials for them? Who would like to take that? Okay, I will assign someone then. Marta.
I don't have an answer to any of those questions. But what I do believe, one of the pieces that has always struck me.
Could you bring your microphone just a little closer to your mouth?
Is that better?
It's right there. Are you talking through your headset?
No, I'm not talking to I'm just listening to the headset.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Okay. As I started to say, I don't have the answer to any of those questions, but my experience of the Urantia book has always been that it's incredibly diverse, and that as individuals find their way with the book, it's going to be like a huge landscape of expressions and integrations and sharings that are going to be quite different, whether it's the cosmological piece, whether it's Adam and Eve, whether it's with children. And my sense is that, you know, we talk about love and service. I don't believe that someone who truly loves cannot be of service. I just think they go together. If you have truly loved or are truly loving, it will be manifest in your life. And someone else may look at it and say, oh my gosh, you're not doing blah, blah, blah. It's sort of like the two mites that the women left at the altar that Jesus pointed out. So my sense is that we really say to everybody, go for it. You know, where you're interested in children and families, it's like, write it, put it out there, try it in a workshop, live it, try it at your local adult education, try it in a group of unwed mothers. There are so many places that we can take the heart and soul of this book into the world. And you know, I think sometimes people think they're waiting for the okay, or they're waiting to be told which one to do, which is the great service project. Just go be of service and trust it. Your angels will guide you. The Spirit of truth will guide you. Life will take you into it. And it doesn't matter how someone else claims it or judges it or says, no, that's not service. Just live your love and write it. So.
Thank you, Marta. Yes, Gard.
I would tell you one of the ways it's happening is through the interfaith movement. And Alice alluded to this at the beginning of our session. So at the Parliament of World Religion since 1993, we've been there, and we've now very well recognized in the world of interfaith. And the Urantia book is commonly known. And it's not just amongst the older generations, it's amongst the younger generations too. So I think stepping out of our comfort zones, involving ourselves in activities like that. And as Marta said, during COVID, I was inspired. I've just written a children's book and Alice is helping me edit it. And so, you know, at 67, you can do this. Write a children's book. Let's get it out there. We need the materials and we need them now. So I encourage everybody on this call to think about that. Mine is called Love is the Magic Key that allows us to be the real we.
Thank you, Gard. Do I have to wait till I'm 67 though to write it?
Actually, I wrote it, Andre, so that I could begin to understand the book myself.
Okay, very good. Yes, David.
I don't know that in general I'm very good at this within the revelatory circles, but I'm getting a little bit of traction with my students, and these are people that maybe I don't teach anymore, or I've been teaching for a long time, and I've gotten to be friends with them too. And I'm just thinking of what Marta was saying, do it where you find yourself. And I mean, it's got to be appropriate. You don't want to push past barriers that are there that it's inappropriate, but I do think we've had a kind of a tendency over the years to, I don't want to say be too polite, which is something I'm rarely accused of, but in the interactions that you have with people, maybe be a little bit more assertive in bringing it up when an opening is there. Because I've got 2 or 3 kids now in college in China who are sort of reading it, and they're reading excerpts I send, and a lot of people that I've met in person who have a book and occasionally come to groups. And one of these times it's going to connect, and then you see where it goes. And so the more times we do this, you know, 1 out of 1,000, and it takes off, and then there's a wildfire. So do it personally where you find yourself.
Thank you very much, David. I'm going to jump to another question. This question looks at the kind of education. I'd like to compare good for the soul education and academic education. What are the values of both, and who do they reach? Is there a place for experiential education in the mix? What do you envision? What does that look like? Anybody want to tackle that?
Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure. If you compare what we could call good for the soul education with academic education, learning the facts, what are the values of both, and who do they reach? Is there a place for experiential education in the mix? And what do you envision? What does it look like? Marta again, thank you. And then Elizabeth.
Well, I don't want to hog the answers here,
No?
but you know, no.
First on the buzzer.
Buzz. But you know, the book is, I think, a revelation of mind. Now, mind is thinking, feeling, and perceiving. We know that from the foreword. The book talks about expanding cosmic consciousness and enhancing spiritual perception. I think they go together. I think if we are expanding our cosmic consciousness, our spiritual perception is enhanced. We can take in more on the spiritual level. And if we aren't, to me, it's all about contributing to the Supreme. If we're not growing our souls and we're not contributing to the Supreme, we'll die. It will sort of die out. We'll lose that enthusiasm. We'll lose that juice. We'll lose that curiosity. We'll lose that excitement. So I have to say that in the courses that I've taken, some seem to be very, 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 I don't know, fact-based, but they can seem to be dry, extremely, extremely dry. There's not a one that I have taken that hasn't enriched my spiritual perception, that hasn't grown me in a transforming kind of way. I think it's the natural consequence. It's a design. It's designed to work this way. All we have to do is go along with the design and really embrace it and love it.
Because of the nature of the revelation. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Andre. And Gard, chime in too. I think we should be striving for what we imagine the schools of thinking, feeling, and doing are like in the mansion worlds. Because we know as we develop our civilization on this planet, we are advancing it to the various and progressive levels of the mansion worlds. So I think it behooves us to imagine what goes on in those schools. And we know that they're developing our character. And that our character grows through developing our minds intellectually. So that's the study part. The studying really gives us an intellectual framework on which we can understand our experience of reality. But we know we need worship too in order to have this vertical relationship with our Divine Father, with the Universal Father, and grow in our spiritual life. But this is more felt. This goes to the level also of values, our cosmic duty, which comes out in the doing part. How do we relate to everyone else in the world, to our spiritual community? How do we work together to solve the problems of the world? So I just want to say, put all that together. It's not a matter of either or this or that. Put it all together, bundle it. And that's what we're trying to do at Urantia University.
Thank you.
Provide for that kind of educational environment in which all of those things are being developed.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Jeannie, and then Gard, and that will probably have to be it. We're running up against the clock already. Please go ahead, Jeannie.
Thank you very much. Well, in my understanding, as Marta already said, our revelation has two levels. One is intellectual, which contributes to the amplification, sorry for my lack of vocabulary, our cosmic consciousness, to amplify our cosmic consciousness, which means the consciousness of what exists in the cosmos, how is God, divine beings, what is the reality in every level. That is, according to the Urantia book, the definition of cosmic consciousness, and also about spiritual, to augment our spiritual perception. Our spiritual perception is a part of transformation. It's a gift from our Father, from the spiritual circuits. So this revelation has two big dimensions. One is intellectual, the other is spiritual. We need teachers that be what they are teaching, that have profound spiritual discernment. Their understanding must be spiritualized experientially spiritualized. And this is a living truth, not just a merely intellectual truth, something that we need to live to be able to understand properly, or not. Maybe the word properly is not adequate, because we always are growing in understanding, but we need to have both parts. And I think we can say it in a short words, doing the will of the Father. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeannie. Gard, you'll have the last word on this.
Very quickly, I will tell you, we are the beneficiaries of a revelation. And there are some ideas in there like fact, meaning, value that the world doesn't understand. We're living in a world in which there are alternate facts. There are not alternate facts, there are facts. We're living in a world that denies values. Louise put up a website, which I encourage us all to go to, but denies values, denies spirituality, denies the very existence of God. So we are the beneficiaries of an extraordinary gift. And I want to say, as an entree, my friend Pato is doing incredible work to bring the next generation aboard. He is part of a Unity Earth caravan that's moving across the United States. They'll be in Las Vegas on the 3rd of September. And they're doing work that is bringing that next generation. And so again, I encourage each of us, what is your gift? As Elizabeth would say, figure it out and go give it, right? Because in 500 years or 100 years, I don't want any of us to be sad that looking back on this planet, we didn't give everything we had to give during our short period. So God bless you all, and thank you, Andre, for coordinating this, and the team. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Elizabeth.
God bless you all, and thank you for a stimulating discussion. The only regret I have is that we did not have 2 hours for a 2-hour discussion. This was a 2-hour discussion, not a 1-hour discussion. And for those of you that have submitted questions, what I will do is I will capture those questions and forward them to each of the organizations so that perhaps we can have these come out in a publication or something as an article or answers to education questions. I thank you all for your attention, and I turn it over to the moderator, I believe, Chris Wood.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, your educators out there and everyone who's had questions. You're right. We probably could have done a 6-hour discussion on this and still not gotten to the bottom of it. So I think this will be a continued part of future 24-hour events, is a community discussion, a panel discussion on some issue that is facing us as a community. And we can all hopefully listen and contribute and learn. So thank you.